Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Good morning to some. Welcome to the voice of an economic mobility movement. We are so glad to have you joining us today for an amazing conversation, a milestone presentation, and a research celebration, all courtesy of Up Together and the Voice Board. You will hear much more about the Voice Project and the Voice Board over the next 90 minutes. But first, let's make sure we can hear clearly and maximize this experience in today's webinar. Please take a moment to select your preferred language for today. It will be provided in either English language or Spanish language. I recommend you visit the interpretation tab with the little globe icon and select either the English channel or the Spanish channel for the webinar. This way you can decide how this webinar gets broadcasted directly to you. Again, please pick one or the other, English channel or Spanish channel. Do not leave it on default or you may miss certain parts of today's webinar. I also want to take a moment to thank everyone for answering our simple poll question. Definitely want to take a moment to thank you for answering the poll question. It's good to see that there are some familiar faces in the audience. Pretty cool to know that some of you are checking us out for the first time. It's good to get noticed. My name is Elton Gumble. I'm one of the many teammates here at Up Together, Director of Community Strategy and Community Engagement. I am excited to go ahead and engage with you because we feel it's really time to reimagine how this country approaches economic mobility. It's definitely time to definitely reimagine that. There's no silver bullet, no magic potion that we are selling you that will instantly make poverty become a thing of the past. However, if you look at the past, say 30, 40, 50 years, reports show the poverty rate has not improved. This despite pumping 130% more money into the same systems and policies over the last 4 decades. Now, some narratives will try to convince you that guaranteed income, unrestricted direct cash assistance is a get rich quick conversation. It is not. It is not a useless conversation either, as some research assumptions would lead you to believe. In fact, it's a necessary conversation, especially when you choose to intentionally explore and consider the barriers and potential accelerators to economic mobility. And we get a chance to celebrate today because we feel it's now a conversation backed by research that has an authentic origin rooted in lived experiences. That's why it's called The Voice, valuing our insights and community expertise. And I'm excited to have you on this 90-minute webinar journey with us. Here's what's coming your way. In just a minute, you'll hear from our leader, Up Together CEO, Jesus Harena. We will then break down and explain the purpose of this voice initiative. We'll introduce you to the amazing research team and give a voice to some of the meaningful takeaways from the data. We will have a panel discussion about some of the community building and connections made during this 9-month process. We will make an important declaration about the impact of this work. Our Executive Vice President of Membership and Impact will join us to share those next steps. We will spotlight 2 members of the research team who have demonstrated just how powerful their voice can be when advocating for the community. And as time permits, we will have Q&A. So please, at any point during today's session, feel free to click on that Q&A tab and enter a question. Our team is standing by behind the scenes, and we will do our best to answer your questions. And we'll also end with storytelling, an example of amplifying voice and being seen. Okay, that's today's roadmap. Let's go ahead and start off with leadership remarks from our very own Jesus Harena, CEO and President here at Up Together. Jesus, we will unmute your microphone. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Elton. And I just share your excitement as we mark a milestone for Up Together and the valuing our insights and community expertise, or voice board. And so I want to start by recognizing what it represents, which is a fundamental belief that those most impacted by economic hardship should shape research, set the priorities and the solutions intended to improve the lives of people experiencing financial hardship. This is the power of co-design. So when the Gates Foundation approached us last year, they were looking for a different kind of partner, one that could complement traditional academic approaches to research with something more grounded, participatory, and community-driven. And that's where Voice began, complementing and blending academic rigor with community wisdom and know-how. Now, a little bit of background, if you're new to Up Together, we were founded with the belief that people are the experts of their own lives, that community, capital, and choice, or the 3 Cs, are the 3 drivers of mobility. And if you don't know, community is about networks, it's the connections and the relationships that support us. Capital is direct cash, and choice is recognizing the autonomy that people have to be able to make decisions for themselves and figure out what prosperity means, as well as the ability to thrive in their own households. And for more than 2 decades, Up Together has worked alongside families across the country to understand how people reach their goals, how they begin to thrive. And we have proven repeatedly, people are not lacking motivation or skill. It is our current systems and institutions which lack trust in people, fail to invest in them, and deny them the access to opportunities others take for granted. And this is why participatory research matters. It's not just about data, it's about a redistribution of power. When people with lived experiences lead research and set the agenda, they reclaim the authority as experts and architects of their own mobility. This work is a first step towards democratizing data for those facing financial hardship, empowering them to define what impact truly means within their own communities. The Voice projects ask the questions: what if communities themselves determine what we study about economic mobility and how that research is conducted? But we knew this just wasn't about studying economic mobility. It was about co-designing knowledge, about shifting research from being about people to being done with people. This work is not just about producing another report or agenda. It's about shifting who holds the pen in writing our collective understanding of economic mobility. It's about replacing all narratives of deficiencies with ones of strengths, connection, and power. I'm incredibly proud of our Voice board members, which you're going to hear from shortly, our Up Together team, and our partners who've shaped this work together. You've modeled what it looks like to bring rigor and respect together in one process, and to remind the field that lived experience is expertise. So as you listen today, I invite you to see this as an invitation to reimagine what research can look like when it's rooted in dignity, power, and partnership. And I'm deeply grateful for our Voice board members, our Up Together team, and our partners at the Gates Foundation for walking alongside us in this journey. This work reminds us that system change begins when we start by listening and when we trust people to lead. Thank you, and let's get started.
All right. Thank you for those opening remarks, Jesus. Thank you for setting the stage for us. This is The Voice, right? No, it's not a singing competition. No, Snoop and Reba McEntire aren't going to pop out and declare a winner or anything like that. The purpose of Voice and this Voice project is really to co-create valuable research about our communities, with our communities, informed by our communities, led by our communities. Many of us have heard some form of the saying, nothing about us without us is ever really for us. This Voice project stands firm on that non-negotiable. The objective really was twofold: partner with a small group of individuals and families who have direct insight on financial hardship or experience in living with limited income, and co-create a research agenda, one that shares input on common experiences about economic mobility. The second objective was to develop a participatory research framework. Folks, the research is in, right? We now have a guidebook. It's available for free download right now at uptogether.org/voice project. We encourage you to visit the website, download both the research agenda as well as the participatory guidebook. A lot of good content on there that we're excited to bring your way. Now, none of this milestone moment would be possible without an overly qualified research team. On your screen right now are the authors of the research, a 15-member committee of community experts known as the Voice Board, and 4 Up Together staffers. On a weekly basis, they combine their skill sets and knowledge to drive meaningful discussions with care, with empathy, innovation, and trust. So let's quickly recognize our research team. We have Teresa from Detroit, a cancer survivor, community advocate, and environmental justice warrior who seeks to create space for collective action that uplifts families towards lasting stability. We have Lee from Boston, Massachusetts. She's a mother, a lover of botany, a paralegal, a special education advocate, a mediator who uses her voice to passionately address systemic inequality. We also have Taniqua from Austin, Texas, a devoted mother of five, a foster parent, a doula, a notary, a community organizer, a community development commissioner who wants to make sure that lived experience gets the chance to shape authentic research and policy. We also have Elsa, lives in East Boston, is a wife, a mother of three, with more than 30 years dedicated to education, language inclusion, and community advocacy. When she talks, people in her community definitely listen. We have Christina from San Antonio, Texas, a wife, a proud mother of four, president of a local nonprofit organization, and she's driven by faith and compassion to love, care for, and speak up for others in her community. William is from the Bay Area in Oakland, California, a proud father who just a few years ago saw his daughter become the first person in his family to afford to attend college. He serves on several different boards around his community and feels dedicated to transforming outdated policies and representing perspectives often absent from research, especially those of men facing trauma and health disparities. We have Claire from Boston, a single mother of three and proud founder of a local nonprofit dedicated to providing meaningful resources for families in the Boston area. She says she's committed to create equitable solutions for families facing housing barriers. We have our Lisa from Detroit, Michigan, a single mother with insights about health and wellness and also the benefits, Cliff. Her life is rooted in faith, spirituality, and a deep commitment to help influence meaningful change in policy and legislation. Nikki is from San Antonio, Texas, a mother of two, a housing commissioner, public speaker, and a community advocate who prides herself on creating spaces for conversations about housing, food, and resource insecurity. Susanna lives in Oakland, a proud mother, high school English teacher, and recent graduate from University of California, Davis. She's the first in her family to earn a college degree and says she's living proof that people enduring financial hardship want to work, want to achieve more, and want to build better futures for themselves and their family. Uh, Gamala is a proud Oakland resident with roots in Yemen. She's a devoted mother, community advocate, self proclaimed problem solver who has worked hard to support her family and create opportunities for her children through education and community involvement. We have Claudia, who lives in Marin County, California. She is a scholar, a mother of four, a community mentor who overcame homelessness as a young mom to now balance life and job in one of the most expensive counties to live in, California. She says she believes in celebrating different cultures, uplifting women, and creating pathways for families to thrive. Jose Manuel is a longtime resident of Southwest Detroit, married to his wife for 27 years, and is the proud father of seven children. He's a construction professional and former Catholic Church educator with a desire to help Latino families overcome challenges. And Courtney is a single mother of two sons, recently served as the first Black woman mayor of Emeryville, California. She's gone from experiencing personal homelessness due to Oakland's rising housing market to fighting for dignity, equity, and guaranteed income. And our research team continues with Amanda Brush, Senior Survey Research Manager at Up Together. She's a mixed methods researcher with expertise in responsible data collection and has a PhD from UC Santa Barbara. Jamila Clark, a mixed methods research analyst handpicked for this voice project. She's a mother and full-time doctoral student based in Chicago. Crystal Murphy, membership experience manager at Up Together. She's a mom of three girls, an entrepreneur, and supported the facilitation of weekly meetings for the Voice Project. She's based in Boston. And Marina Tolchinsky, director of analytics at Up Together. Marina holds a degree from the University of Southern Cal and a master's from Johns Hopkins University. She's passionate about using data for social good and is currently based in San Diego. Okay, so that's your research team that's been on this 9-month journey. Let's give you 4 quick takeaways from some of their learnings about economic mobility. The first is that economic mobility is panoramic, it's nonlinear, it's multidimensional, and the research team concluded that it's a journey with valleys, peaks, and plateaus. Now, Claudia is one of the researchers on this work who I'd love to bring in now and just ask her to share why this panoramic view of economic mobility and the journey was worth pointing to. If Claudia is there, please feel free. Could you put this into further context? Why was this point important to you and the research team?
Yes, hi, of course. Good morning. Thank you. It's truly an honor to be here this morning. Let me start just grounding us a little bit on what a panoramic view is, right? When we think of panoramic view, it's a really wide, extensive, and unobstructed sight that can point in all directions. And when we're thinking of panoramic view on economic mobility, as you stated, there is a lot of valleys, a lot of peaks, a lot of plateaus, but it's really, in other words, it's very complex. It involves and it's influenced by a lot of factors, and those are both individual, social, and at community level. When we think of economic mobility, often it's always thinking moving upwards, like moving up the ladder, right? And growing in assets, growing in money. And in reality, economic mobility for our communities, for members of our community, can go in all directions. It can even go downwards. And that's what this study goes into, right? And it's all the challenges that we face as community members as coming out of a circle of poverty, and what directions we really can go. I went up to the redwoods over the weekend, and I was taking some panoramic pictures of the redwoods, right? And just trying to capture, everything from the top to the bottom and the beauty of the sequoias and the redwood trees up there. And it really made me think, when we're thinking of economic mobility, right, it doesn't always go just upwards, right? And the branches can go left and it can go right. And all the challenges that we face, it is combination of a lot of individual, social, and structural factors and challenges. It involves also the economic pause, and that's just the whole other concept within itself. So I hope that that's able to ground us on the concept of panoramic view.
Thanks a lot, Claudia. So well said. We're so happy to have partnered with you on this research. Really appreciate your input and your context there.
Thank you. Thank you. If I may just add a little bit, that this also involves an economic pause, which could also be, and I know some of my colleagues are going to stand on that a lot, as we go further. But as it was mentioned earlier, the research really, bringing the perspectives of the community members, and it's very different than our research for somebody that has not faced homelessness or food insecurity. And all the challenges that our communities oftentimes face, and then for somehow some social construct, some social structural challenge there, we can't move forward with. So I know we're going to learn more about it as we move on this webinar today. So thank you.
No, thank you, Claudia. That's the perfect segue. That's the perfect transition to our second big takeaway in the research, that economic pause, that economic mobility is not always up or down. It includes pauses that shape people's financial paths. And to share a little bit more on that, let's bring in Arlisa from Detroit, who always brought her wisdom to the weekly meetings. Arlisa, can you say a little bit more about this concept of the pause and why the research team thought it was significant?
Yes, thank you, Elton. And I think Claudia just really shaped it up really well. So, as you mentioned, economic mobility and the power of the pause actually is not just about moving up or down. Sometimes it is about pausing. So, as we explored this, we were thinking about what happened during COVID-19. The whole world hit a pause. Everyone experienced it in one way or another. And through that global standstill, we learned something profound, that the pause looks different for everyone. For some, it lasts a week. For others, it could be a month or even years. And the bounce back, that's just as unique because recovery doesn't look the same for all of us, right? So before COVID, many of us never imagine pausing. It never imagined that it was even an option, actually. We were too busy, too consumed by the grind. The idea of stepping away felt impossible. Who has time to pause for health challenges, a lost job, or the need to care for a loved one, right? And pausing just to reset, that could actually feel unthinkable, almost like breaking some sort of an unspoken rule. But what we discovered is that pausing isn't about laziness or lack of ambition, as some would make us think that it is. It's about opportunity. It was a chance to sort things out, to heal, to reground, to reboot, and to rebuild. And through our research and conversations that we had, we also saw the difference between having the privilege to pause and being forced to pause. Some can step back by choice, and we found that out along this journey. Others are pushed into it by circumstances beyond their control, a layoff, an illness, or some sort of a global crisis like COVID-19. Yet both experiences reveal the same truth. Pausing shapes the path of economic mobility. In fact, pausing is a vital part of the economic mobility ecosystem, and it gives grace to those who don't always have the privilege to step away. And it reminds us that growth doesn't only happen in motion, sometimes it happens in the stillness of the pause. And so, Elton, there we have it.
Oh, I love that. The stillness of the pause. I love that. Time to reboot and rebuild. So well said. Thank you for that, Arlisa. It's Arlisa with 2 S's.
With 2 S's.
Get it right. I'd love to go ahead and bring in William from Pittsburgh, California, to get his context on this next concept that was pulled away in the research. The grace economy. Access to the grace economy is shaped by structural privileges and systemic barriers. William, could you speak on why the grace economy mattered to you in the research team?
Yeah, thank you, Elton, and thank you, Elisa. Yeah, the grace economy. In our conversations about COVID, we realized that during the forced pause that COVID created, while most struggled, others were able to pivot and use that pause to their advantage. We derived that there is a system embedded in the movements of economic mobility, a kind of unnoticed economic reality, this sort of grace economy. It's a system that has always existed, but hidden in plain sight because it's more of a mindset, a belief system that some people are taught to understand and others are conditioned to believe otherwise. But this grace economy is a structured part of economic mobility, the chance to pause and reflect or reassess your status in life and redirect if you see other opportunities to advance or re-educate yourself. So the question became, who has access to that grace? We believe it is the same people who are structurally privileged to maneuver other systemic barriers like discrimination or the effects of poverty or racism, sexism, ableism, or any of those isms. We saw it played out in difference between students who are able to speak or able to take a break before going to college, the gap year, and others who are thrust into college, whether they are ready or not. Because if you're a first generation college student, your family is dependent on you to break the cycle and lead a path for your brothers and sisters or cousins, and you don't have time to rest or reflect or reassess. You got to go to college. And to continue that mentality all the way through your life, really. We live in a society where we are expected to work all the time. We have been conditioned to believe that there is no rest for the weary, that for some it's perfectly okay to rest or take a break, but to others, you're expected to work through sickness, just overcome any kind of social challenge in life. It's kind of a slave mentality that keeps us on that treadmill, believing if you snooze, you lose, instead of seeing a pause or a rest as a strategic move. This grace is a systemic privilege that's not afforded to everyone. The grace economy is accessed freely in some cultures to those with privilege to exercise their right to self-care. But unfortunately, that system was not designed for certain of us worker bees. We have to keep the economy afloat while others make these life-changing decisions. We're not allowed to rest or reflect or reassess. That concept is unfamiliar to most on the economic climb, but essential to others who have that privilege to say, quit their job or open a business or change their careers because they're unhappy. They're supported in that decision as a part of life, but that part of life is foreign to those on the other side of the economic spectrum because we're too busy to see it. Some people are able to use that grace to their advantage, but most people are ill prepared to take advantage of that grace, not because we don't want to, but because we never really recognized that we could. It is in my culture, we always feel this relentless uphill climb to prove ourselves. The idea that productivity equals our wealth, but it's just part of our social conditioning because it keeps us on that economic treadmill. This cultural guilt and shame for even contemplating rest. In my culture, you're ridiculed or you're selfish or considered lazy if you're not constantly grinding. And for many of us, we're caregivers, caring for our parents or a child or someone. We don't have the privilege to rest. So you always feel this pressure of taking care of someone else. And in this society, you are penalized to want to rest. In fact, during the pandemic, many folks were able to work from home or move to better neighborhoods, while others considered essential workers continue to be on the front line, exposed and expendable, stuck in the middle of the pandemic. They had to keep working. And it's not a matter of pulling ourselves up, it's built into the social construct. We must always be in perpetual motion, whereas rest is seen as a privilege. The grace economy is not meant for people on the wrong end of the social climb. We're not privy to, nor are we ever expected to access that grace. This structural privilege is preferential through cultural dominance and shaped by cultural socialization to believe that we're not worthy of grace. But the pause due to COVID was a very important part of economic mobility because it illustrated grace to those who are not privileged. And we, the voice, recognize that this grace economy should be given to all. And we need to recondition our future generations to understand that stopping, taking a pause, to reflect and reassess, and to rest is a natural step in the economic mobility, and that the rat race was designed for rats, not humans.
Oh wow. Thank you, William. That was on fire. um I love the input, love the wisdom. Thank you for partnering with this team on the research and adding some extra context there. The guilt and shame for contemplating rest, the gap year in college. I love that. Thank you for contributing in that way. I do want to move on to the fourth takeaway. Definitely a harsh reality for many who navigate financial hardship. The search for In the search for economic mobility, it's the benefits cliff. This research found that it's a policy failure, a structural
Mhm.
catch 22 within economic mobility. I'd love to go to Boston and bring in Lee to share her thoughts about why the benefits cliff was a hot topic in the research. Lee, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Yes, indeed. When we mentioned this topic, it seemed like everyone else had a different point of view as to what it is versus what it implies and what it means for other people. So, across the board, the catch 22 of itself is really divisive because you are trapped in a cycle of choices, which actually leads to you making a decision. Should you continue in your path towards economic mobility? Or should you stay where you are, take some time, reassess, gather your resources, and then decide to make that move? So, on the onset, there are a lot of people on the outside looking in who just assume if you have public benefits or if you are still in that moment, then you're perceived to be as lazy, non ambitious, content with your lifestyle. But in reality, what it is, you need to be really strategic as to the moves that you make. Because as we discussed in our meeting, sometimes it's the difference between $1 upward movement means that you would lose your entire foundation from your SNAP assistance to your housing to your childcare vouchers to daycare to any types of transitional assistance. that $1 or that small incremental monetary change can actually break your foundation. So the question is, how do you get out of this trap? Because for us, we were like, okay, some people had the privilege again to step away from all of this and create their own businesses. And that was one way that they avoided this catch-22 altogether. Whereas others, they were just stuck in a cycle of just being unable to self-actualize because of their role that they had. They were the ones that were taking care of their families. So they stepped away to give someone else that opportunity to keep the foundation intact so they won't lose everything else that you want to have by making these choices. So in other words, it is a failure in the system. It is a complete failure in the system. You're penalized for having ambition. You're penalized for wanting to make that change. You're also penalized for going to work. And it's supposed to, under the guise that it should incentivize you to work, but it actually does the complete opposite. Because if you were in a situation where you have to weigh your options to be like, okay, if I made this move today, what would I lose? And that's where the strategy comes in. And for a lot of people, they cannot make that move. It's not that they don't have the willingness to make the move, but the loss is too great to make that move. So for us, this is something that we really gave a lot of grace and pause to, because there were lots of people that were trapped in that. And this was a generational trap. Whereas for that one person, as William mentioned, that one person who was able to go to college, you were saying to yourself, okay, I don't have the luxury to have like 1 year of exploratory learning. I have to continue this because I'm the one that everyone else put in the spotlight. They sacrificed for me to do that. So I just wanted to also share that in the midst of the stillness, when someone is in that situation, it does not mean, the stagnancy does not mean stillness. In most cases, the stagnancy means that this is an opportunity to realign and to reassess and to reevaluate your next move. Because one false move and your entire foundation crumbles. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Lee. Thank you for that perspective. The reality of having to be strategic about the moves you make. That was very well said. That $1 upward movement, the catch-22, you lose all stability without even a single off ramp. Great points there. I really appreciate your input. I'd like to keep going with the research and turn the webinar over to two more members of the research team who were critical to the design of both the research agenda and the participatory guidebook. Jamila Clark in Chicago, Amanda Brush in Santa Barbara. Academic scholars, please take it away. Let's start with Jamila.
Hi, everyone. I'm just so impressed right now with everything that has been shared so far. I think, we've worked together over several weeks. And so to just hear what everyone has had to share so far, it's just really putting me back in the moment and moving, just to hear the power that everyone has. So one thing that I want to bring up is that conversation around power. When you're engaging in participatory research, one of the primary practices that needs to be established in any participatory approach is establishing trust between those who have self-identified as researchers and those who have identified as community. One of the ways that you establish trust is relinquishing that power. And so Up Together researchers was very intentional about relinquishing that power over to the voice. According to Sherry Artstein and her ladder of citizen participation, this is the seventh rung of that ladder of participation or delegation. And within delegation, what you see happening is those who have been formalized in research taking a step back and handing that authority over to the community in which they are collaborating with. And one of the manifestations of this is the amount of members from community versus those who are from, in our case, the grantee organization Up Together, And in that term, there's already naturally a power dynamic that is shifting towards community and away from the host organization. With that in mind, the voice at this point in time became responsible for letting us know what they wanted to investigate, what was their priorities, delegating tasks to the Up Together research team. And to take an extra step, we decided to codify our work and how we're going to share power. And in order to do so, we established a memorandum of understanding, or MOU. And within this document, it established shared decision-making power, commitment to dignity and respect, and also steps for the voice to follow in case any of the shared power that we agreed to felt overstepped, meaning that the voice was diminished, Up Together was elevated. The whole goal of this was to elevate the voice and send us into the back to complete the task that they wanted to understand most about economic mobility. And we can move forward. So in terms of process, this took about 3 steps and about 16 hours or so of community conversations. And within these community conversations, we opened the floor up for the voice to discuss their experiences around economic mobility, either theirs or reflective of what they saw happening in their communities. With this, we recorded each of these conversations and we transcribed these and we coded them for themes, tone of emotion, and nuance. We looked at for how the ideas connected with each other. When the themes kept coming up, we related them in how they might experience and shape one another. This step is called axial coding. It helped us really see the bigger picture of what everyone was talking about. Throughout this process, the voice was reviewing our notes. They were deeply involved in the conversations. If we got it wrong, they very clearly told us we got it wrong. When we got it right, they added more information to help us strengthen what we were finding in these conversations. From this coding, we were able to identify the 2 major frameworks which were previously discussed, the panoramic mobility and the Grace economy, both of which are important and necessary in understanding economic mobility, as well as keys and steps needed to strengthen economic mobility for those who have been facing consistent multi-generational barriers in accessing it. We refined these frameworks together through a series of writing sessions and feedback rounds. And all in all, there were about 8 community conversations that built the foundations to our findings. Yeah, and from that, I'll pass it to Amanda.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I just want to echo what Jamila said. Just thank you so much for being here today. We're so honored to present with the entire Voice research team and just for everybody to be in this room and to share with y'all. Jamila talked about the qualitative component of the work, but from the outset, we knew that we wanted to deploy a nationally representative sample from the Up Together community to explore what we had learned in our research agenda about economic mobility. So our research agenda, as it began to take shape, it became clear pretty quickly that we were exploring something pretty complex, that economic mobility goes in all these different directions, that it's nonlinear, that it's multidimensional. And so we really thought a lot about a quantitative method that could capture all of this nuance. So because of this, we decided to use a case study approach and to focus on the first 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic as a case study to study panoramic economic mobility. So a case study is a research method that takes a really deep and focused look at a specific period of time or bounded context. And this method allows researchers to understand a phenomena like panoramic economic mobility by anchoring it into a concrete and shared experience. So the first 2 years of the pandemic, we felt that they were really powerful years to study or to study economic mobility. This was, as we all remember, a period of extraordinary upheaval, and is something that appeared repeatedly throughout our community conversations. So as we all remember, during the pandemic, people experienced upward mobility. This was a time when a lot of other people faced downward mobility. And as voice board members also mentioned, that these were moments of pause, whether or not by force or choice. And so this period, the COVID-19, first years of COVID-19 as a case study, it gave us a really powerful lens to explore what mobility looks like, which is super messy, multidimensional, and really shaped by systems and external shocks. And can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Perfect. So to look at this, to do this case study, we took a sample of 110,000 Up Together members from our Up Together community, who are a group of people who have experienced financial hardship or economic transitions. So this created engaging with Up Together members by deploying a survey to a sample of that large frame. It created a large and diverse sampling frame to understand different types of mobility experiences and to explore panoramic mobility. So our approach to designing the survey incorporated participatory practices at each touch point in the quantitative research process. So Jamila and I initially, we had created the survey, and we took the first pass at survey design based on the research priorities that we had developed through the community conversations and our research agenda. After that, the voice board conducted significant revisions, particularly in refining language for clarity and accessibility. They also helped us, were critical in adjusting question framing and response options to capture real world experience, to make sure that people taking the survey could actually answer the survey. And really, like, something that that was absolutely amazing was the addition of entirely new questions that we hadn't considered before. So this co-design process ensured that the survey just really reflected community language, concepts and priorities, rather than imposing our external frameworks that we were bringing in as researchers who have been trained for maybe too many years. So because Up Together's research is, because Up Together's membership is skewed towards some cities where we have had Up Together funds, and a lot of the Up Together membership are women, we used a stratified sampling approach. And so a sample of 1,000 respondents taken from that 110,000 larger community was balanced by race, gender, age, and region to make sure that we could represent the entire US population. We ended up deploying the survey in 7 waves, and in each subsequent wave, we used quota sampling to adjust for representativeness in each wave. All survey respondents were compensated $50, and this was to recognize their expertise, and very importantly, also that they are sharing their data and experiences with us. So after we collected all the survey responses, the Up Together research team, we conducted the preliminary statistical analysis of survey responses. And then we brought our findings back to the voice board, where we conducted what are called data walks in our weekly community conversations. So in this analysis process, the board served as the interpretive authorities to explain what the statistical patterns meant and what these perspectives meant for lived experience. The voice board also encouraged us to dig deeper into areas where our preliminary results elicited further questions, or also places where they located patterns that the research team maybe didn't detect at first. So this collaborative approach, it really ensured that the quantitative findings were understood within community contexts and that the analysis served community identified priorities. So I really think that the case study, it just demonstrates the power of mixed methods when grounded in participatory principles. The quantitative results validated and expanded what we had learned in our research agenda from our weekly community conversations and provided an interpretive context for what the numbers truly meant and I guess what they deeply meant. So I just want to say that neither approach, qualitative or quantitative alone, could have captured the complexity of panoramic economic mobility. And just working together, these methods revealed patterns to understanding this phenomenon. So none of this would have, of course, been possible without all the research team in this room who brought their experience and their intellectual leadership to every single stage of the research process. All of the findings from this are available in our research agenda on the Voice website. We also have a guide of participatory research guidebook, which is a methodology that we really hope that research and practitioners who want to engage with participatory methods can use in their own work. So I hope that everybody takes time to look at these research, these resources, and hope that everybody adapts them to their own work. So thanks so much for being here today, and I'm going to pass it back to Elton.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you, Jamila, as well. Amazing information, insights on the case study. Those are just some of our research, some of the members of our research team. The conversation is really just getting started. We actually are going to get into a panel discussion about the whole experience. To lead it for us, I'm happy to turn the webinar over to Crystal, our member experience manager, and some very clutch members of the Voice board. But real quickly, just in case you joined late, I recommend you visit the interpretation tab. Select either the English channel or the Spanish channel for the webinar so you can decide how this webinar gets broadcasted directly to you. Pick one or the other, English channel or Spanish channel. Please do not leave it on default. Crystal, take it away.
Thank you, Elton. So as Elton mentioned, I'm the member experience manager here at Up Together, excuse me. And it's been an unforgettable experience seeing all the connections that's been made over the last 9 months with the Voice board on a weekly basis. And so as Elton said, this panel discussion is going to celebrate some of those amazing insights and experiences that took place over the last 9 months. And so I'm very happy to be joined by 4 of the Voice board members. We have Nikki Johnson from San Antonio, Texas. We have Jose Manuel Guerrero from Detroit, Michigan. Elsa Flores from Boston, Massachusetts, where I'm from. And Teresa Landrum from Detroit, Michigan. And so my first question is for Nikki, who without a question of a doubt was our icebreaker queen for the Voice board. Every meeting, she had the most engaging prompts and questions for everyone to think about. And we spent some time laughing, a lot of time reflecting. Sometimes a few tears came out with just how thoughtful her questions were to the group. And so, Nikki, if you could just share a little bit about your experience with being part of the Voice board and why sparking communications and connections with other Voice board members was so important to you.
Thank you, beautiful. I appreciate that so much, Crystal. To Elton and to my entire Voice board family, I am so proud of y'all in this moment, listening to how you all are relaying all of the work that we've done for the last 9 months. But I use the word family because my desire was to create that type of atmosphere every time we came together. It was going to be weekly for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. And we're coming off of work and we're coming off of family and life and this work that we do out in the world. And it was an opportunity to take all of that off and come to a common ground. Although we were all bringing these experts, real life experiences, we still all came from different backgrounds and states and cities and life was lifing every single day. So it was an opportunity to just kind of let down the walls, kind of relax and remember that we are all interconnected, no matter how different our life stories may be. but it was also an opportunity to prepare our voices to be utilized for the voice board. We were going to be tackling very tough and crucial information and scenarios and stories and research and all of those things, as you all have heard so far. It would be very complicated. So this would be an opportunity to just prepare to dive into being open and vulnerable and real and honest. So whether we were talking about what's your favorite topping for your ice cream, or what legacy do you want to leave behind when you're 90 years old and sitting on your patio looking over your backyard, what's the legacy that you want to leave, down to what work, what impact do you want to leave in this work. It was very important, after listening to the answers week after week and hearing people say, I needed that. Like, you don't know what I was going through, but I needed to be able to vent. I needed to be able to release. I needed to be able to laugh. I needed to be able to cry. That made it a job and a duty and a mission for me, not to just have a great icebreaker, but an icebreaker that could actually break the ice before we really dove into such amazing work and amazing conversation. To be a part of The Voice, I said, I'm not going to cry and I won't. But I would tell you this, it's powerful to be able to represent voice. I'm sorry, can y'all still hear me? My alarm just went up. To be able to represent voices that will never be asked to have a seat at the table. To be able to take your lived experience and have people like you all as researchers say, you are the experts, we're going to take a back seat. You all tell us what you want. To take our thoughts and our opinions week after week and say, this is what I got from what you said. Is it accurate? Does it match what you were feeling? Did we encapsulate what you wanted? That meant everything. And so every single weekend, I feel like I can say this on behalf of the board, we came to the table ready to be the voice for everyone that we know, for people that we don't know but have our experiences, for people that are struggling, for people that wish someone would invite them to discussions like this. And we took that on and we shouldered that for 9 months with pride, with passion, with excitement, with intensity. We didn't always agree, but we always agreed to find a solution. And lastly, I'll say this, it was an opportunity to be at the table where problems were and solutions could be found. You know, I always say, if you keep inviting the same people and coming up with the same solutions, but you're not talking to the people that have the problems, you're never going to come up with real solutions. You're only going to come up with what you think they need. But the best people to tell you what they need are those that have the need. So it's been an amazing opportunity, and I'm so grateful for it.
Thank you so much, Nikki. And you had a fellow voice board member right in the chat, I believe it was Lee, that said you allowed everyone to decompress. And I think on behalf of the researchers and the Up Together team as well, I would agree with that. You've done an amazing job in leading these icebreakers and building the connection within the group, even including the interpreters and making sure that the staff had a voice and space within the meeting. So thank you so much for your input. All right, my next question is for Jose Manuel. I think we have Jose here. Yes. All right, my question to you, Jose, is what value did you get out of connecting with the Voice Board on a weekly basis for the last 9 months?
It's so much. It's so much that I'm pretty sure everybody learning for each other. Because I don't know, now I'm realizing that maybe that's the feel of the sense of the closeness. But now I realize that some of you guys are on the other side of the country. But every week we feel it's so close to them. I always think that everybody's in Detroit. They're close to me. We always feel like that. So every conversation, every opinion, everything that we share, I get really surprised because we never get to the point to get a conflict. We always get to the point to get agree because everybody's just sure what we're looking for, to get the voices straight, to get the, whatever we're looking for, to get a better life for the people, for the families. So I'm really, really surprised because If I try to do something, even with my little son, try to explain it something, I'm pretty sure we get a conflict. He's not gonna agree, or he's gonna complain, or he's gonna argue. But it didn't happen, not even one time. So just thinking about how we come from different cultures, from different groups, racial groups with different backgrounds, we never get to the point. So I really feel, blessed, grateful to be part of this. For me, this is a lifetime opportunity. I'm so glad I never let it go. So I really appreciate all of you, and I appreciate Up Together to give me the opportunity to be here. So this is a really proof that we can, working together, we can get at a point to achieve what we're looking for. Thank you so much, everybody. I still feel so close to you, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose Manuel. And I know I've heard in the meetings that this feels like a family. And so I think you just summarized that as well. So thank you so much. My next question is for Teresa. So while we get Teresa up, Teresa, I know that because connecting with this group was impactful for you as well over the last 9 months. Can you share anything with us about your experience?
Thank you, Crystal, and thank you to this board and research team. As mentioned, I am Teresa Landon from Southwest Detroit, 48217 in Michigan. And I want to say that before The Voice, I was feeling lost. I was feeling isolated. I was feeling ignored. And because of the work I've been doing for the last 30 years, it has been a work of service. I am used to providing. I am used for others. I'm used to servicing others. I'm used to solving problems for others. Never had the opportunity to stop and think about self. Who could I call? Who could I lean on? And that's the challenge I face. I'm like Nikki. I said I wasn't going to cry, but it's hard not to become emotional when you finally find a place where you fit in. The Voice gave us the opportunity to look at our lives and peel away the layers to see what barriers that we were challenged with as caregivers, as service, as worker bees, as William mentioned. We didn't have the opportunity to stop, to pause, and look at and take care of ourselves. In this process, we found out how we were being economically impacted, socially impacted, and racially impacted. And we do not take all those things into consideration when we're taking care of other people's lives, because that's what we were actually doing. We were able to connect with people across the nation where we could find a commonality, where we could come together as one voice. We don't see that often. And as a person that comes from a background of being educated, having a great job until I retired, I was considered middle class, right? So when I would retire, I thought I was safe. But when COVID hit, well, before COVID hit, I never thought that I would face the possibility of losing my home. But I faced that challenge, and I had to find resources in order to save my house. Not only did I find resources to save my house, I found resources to save over 200 people's homes in the city of Detroit that were facing tax foreclosure, right? I'm still working amidst my struggle to benefit other people. And in this group, that's what I found. I found worker bees. I found service. I found providers in this group. So that lost feeling, it gave me an opportunity to connect, to know that I am not alone and that I can lean on somebody else's shoulder. And when we face these experiences, okay, Jose come from Detroit. Arlisa comes from Detroit. Well, excuse me, I think Nikki, forgive me. But we come from Detroit. We have that same environment, but we shared that we had different experiences living and growing in Detroit. Because when you look at Detroit, you're looking at an urban area, right? You're looking at predominantly Black people and people of color. You're looking at people talk negativity about Detroit and criticizing you. But we showed in this process of research that we know how to strive and survive. And when we talked about economic mobility, we did not understand that one day we would have to face the same challenges that we were servicing other people. And when that happened, I'm telling you, I was lost. I was lost, like, oh my God, who's going to come to my rescue? And I found that in this board, the experience we shared and the knowledge that we shared with the research group team, that we could have a voice. We could share something that nobody else could express to the people that are looking to provide economic mobility. We talked about pause. We talked about the challenges of devastation due to illness and being caregivers. And often, as I mentioned before, we don't have that shoulder. And the voice gave us the opportunity to be that shoulder for each other. And I just want to say we came together with what I call a unified voice to represent people that are in the struggle, that are fighting to lift everyone up. We're not just lifting up our lives, we're lifting up community lives. And so that's what I found. So the emotion is pure love for this team. The emotion is pure love for that somebody actually took the time through research to look at everyday people's struggle and to know that we are a team and we are a force to be reckoned with, and that our voices matter and we matter. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Teresa. You're getting lots of applause and hearts and all these things coming from the chat. And I just want to say thank you to you personally. Thank you. And so last but not least, my final question is for Elsa. So while we get Elsa up, Elsa, you were committed to making connections within the voice board as well, even relying on our team of Spanish interpreters to make sure that your voice was heard. So Elsa, can you take a moment to talk to us about why participating in this research and being on the voice board was important to you?
Sí, buenas tardes a todos. Gracias por esta oportunidad. Saludos desde Boston. Mi nombre es Elsa Flores una vez más. Esta tarde quiero resumir en 3 palabras mi participación del aprendizaje de las conexiones a través del proyecto Voz de Act Together. Mis 3 palabras son gratitud, compromiso y liderazgo comunitario. Esto desde el 2011 he recibido excelentes experiencias y oportunidades a través de Act Together y este proyecto no fue la excepción. Este proyecto pues ha sido un claro ejemplo para permitir y hacer valer el respeto a la justicia del lenguaje, hablando en mi propio idioma, el español. Gracias por eso. Hoy y durante mi participación en el proyecto Voz estuve expresándome en mi propio idioma. Muchas gracias. Mi compromiso con el Consejo de Voz de Act Together implicó una participación, tratar de hacer una participación activa con responsabilidad y compromiso con la causa o este proyecto. Específicamente, escuchar activamente, aportar valor con empatía y comunicación y trabajar también en colaboración para lograr objetivos en común, asistir a reuniones, defender derechos, proponer soluciones y mantener la confidencialidad, especialmente el aprendizaje de mis compañeros en este consejo. En este webinar reflexiono y agradezco desde lo más profundo de mi corazón, aprovecho la oportunidad una vez más acerca de cómo cada experiencia lograda hasta hoy en día a través de Act Together han dado forma a mi perspectiva en este trabajo y principalmente en mi vida. Cuando comencé a involucrarme en Act Together, pensé en una meta en la cual recibí un apoyo financiero para iniciar ese proceso en aquel momento y hace 2 años lo logré, obtener mi estatus de inmigración en este país. ¿Por qué lo necesito mencionar? Porque mi gratitud en mi corazón es tan grande e inmenso que ese logro hoy en día, y gracias a Dios y a Act Together, me ha permitido tener 2 posiciones de trabajo en las que me siento muy feliz y más humilde al compartir con ustedes este día. Mi primer posición como una manager de conexiones con Union Capital Boston, trabajando y coordinando con un equipo de 5 personas, y mi segunda posición muy humilde. Okey, sí, okey. Perdón. Mi primer posición, es compartiendo este logro, porque realmente desde lo más profundo de mi corazón yo me siento tan agradecida con Act Together desde mis inicios. Logré mi estatus migratorio hace 2 años y, hoy en día tengo 2 posiciones de trabajo muy, muy lindas y estoy muy contenta. Mi primer posición como manager de conexiones con Union Capital Boston. Trabajo coordinando con un equipo de 5 personas, y mi segunda posición como directora para el desarrollo del liderazgo en la alcaldía de Boston, en la oficina de la concejal general de Boston, Julia Mejía. Estoy muy feliz de estos logros, gracias a Dios y gracias a Act Together. Mientras tanto, continúo con el enorme deseo de alzar la voz por las personas de mi comunidad que no siempre son escuchadas. Gracias a todo el equipo de Voice, Act Together, nuestras intérpretes Melissa y Sandra, por liderar con equidad, inclusión y profesionalismo. Continuamos aquí para participar y aprender los unos de los otros. Dios bendiga a Act Together, considerada una comunidad y una familia hermosa para todos. Muchas gracias.
Elsa,
Thank you so much, Elsa. Oh, it sounds like someone else from the board wants to congratulate you or say
yes.
something great to you as well. But thank you so much, Elsa. Your story is amazing. Everyone else on the voice board, I've had the wonderful privilege to listen to everyone's interests and wanting to join the voice board. And I was blown away by listening to all of everyone who is here today, everyone's interests in explaining why they want to join and their background and research. And I couldn't picture a better group of members to represent the voice board. And so that was my final question. Before we go, I do want to ask you, Nikki, if you have anything that you'd like to share as the final takeaway from this group here before I toss it back over.
Other than the fact that I am so immensely proud to have been connected to such powerful men and women who are very unapologetic, they were very unafraid. We spoke truth and we spoke truth and we spoke truth. And I'm going to miss the gathering of the minds and all of the great, powerful things that came out of us meeting every week. But I'm a changed person. And you can have lived experiences that almost mimic someone, but there's still a difference that you can always take away. Even from their lived experience that sounds like yours, there's always something you can take away. And I take away strength from each and every one of you. And if I can briefly say this to Elsa, Elsa, you represented a voice that was so desperately needed. Thank you every week for speaking up and using your voice, even through the interpreters. Thank you so much for making sure that we understood and we heard from the community that you represent, but also just for representing your own life experience. So congratulations on everything. And thank you for being one of our voices. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you, Nikki. And thank you, everyone. I'll toss it back to you, Elton.
Wow, thank you, Crystal. I mean, that blew me away. Just thank you to the research team for just being vulnerable, sharing your thoughts about this experience, this 9-month journey. You see, those of you who are in attendance, you see this was much more than just the 2 objectives, much more than just what you can go and download on our website. By the way, please, we encourage you to download that on our website, www.uptogether.org/voice project. Definitely love hearing and reading and seeing about the impact. But let's go ahead and connect the dots now to impact. It's my pleasure to get out of the way for Up Together's Executive Vice President of Membership and Impact, so that he can go ahead and frame up this conversation and frame up next steps, how best we could continue this conversation. So Cesar, please, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Elton. And thank you, Crystal. And thanks to all of our voice members and our partners and everyone who's joining us here today for grounding us in what this journey has truly been about. Hearing you all speak today reminds me that we've shared today more than just a framework or a report. This really is about lived experience and about the power of relationships. It's a reminder of what's possible when research becomes a conversation among partners. Voice has shown us that the wisdom of lived experience can be just as rigorous, as instructive, and as transformative as any data set or model. What Voice has made visible is what we've always known here at Up Together. Community is infrastructure. When people come together, share stories, and are seen as experts in their own experience, they're not only building knowledge, they're building power. Strategically, this work gives our field something that it's been missing, a shared framework that connects the dots between individual experience, community strength, and systemic change. It's challenging us to study not just income, but wellness, not just movement, but meaning, not just outcomes, but rather the conditions that make mobility possible and sustainable. And emotionally, this work restores something really profound: dignity. It says to our families, your story is data, your experience is evidence, and your insight is strategy. The Voice Board has taught us that pauses, those little moments when people stop to breathe, to care, and to plan for the future, are not signs of failure. They're acts of resilience, and that is actually where change begins. As we look forward, our call to the field is clear. Let's build on this work together. Let's fund, let's study, and let's design with the people who are most impacted. In economic mobility research, let's make participatory research the norm, not the exception. As we move into the next part of the program, we're going to see how power extends beyond research and into advocacy, how democratizing data and research can yield different policy outcomes. Because when our community speaks from their own experience, they don't just contribute to the conversation, they change it. To everyone that's here today, whether you're a researcher, a funder, or a community member, this is an invitation to partner differently, invest differently, trust differently. Because transformation happens when those who are impacted are not just included, but when they are actually leading. I just want to take one more moment to thank everybody who's here for being a part of the movement. I want to thank all of the Voice Board members, all of the members of our team, every single person who's stayed up on this and made such a strong foundation for us to do this work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cesar. I love that. Partner differently, invest differently, trust differently. Great way to frame that. Really appreciate that. Just think of the difference we all can make if more took that approach. Definitely good stuff there. Let's talk about making a difference. Let's put the spotlight on how the voice has been making a difference this year when it comes to being heard. I'd like to bring in both Christina from San Antonio and Taniqua from Austin. These two Texans, let me tell you, they did not shy away this year from stepping up to the mic and making sure their elected officials heard their sound of their voice. Christina, let me start with you. You testified and spoke in front of your policymakers at least 3 times in the last 6 months, even in the Senate chambers, opposing an anti-guaranteed income bill that was being proposed at the time. Christina, why was that so important to you?
For me, that was absolutely amazing because for a very long time, I didn't feel like I even had a story. And I didn't realize how many people live the life that I have or in the same situation. But not very many people get the opportunity to have it so widely heard. So I knew that I needed to be a voice. I knew that I needed to stand strong. Preparing for this was not easy, not the first time, any of the times, but the very first time was definitely very nerve-wracking. I was very worried about what I was wearing. I was very worried about what I was going to say, trying to Google big words, didn't feel like I had what it took to go before these people and speak. But once I got there and just kind of got settled in, I really had to convince myself that I was stronger than I thought, which through over all these times, I've learned that. I've learned that I do have a story, I have a voice, and it's not about the big words that I use, and it's not about knowing what some of these big words mean. It's just about using my voice, my story, what I've lived through, what I've done, and where I'm at now through all of it. So it was definitely a moment of feeling stronger than anybody else, you know, stronger than all of them sitting up there. It was a moment of clarification that I am still human, and now I'm gonna cry again. That I'm somebody, I'm a person, regardless of my circumstances.
We love the person that you are, and we love the voice that you have. Um, um, I'll give you a chance to collect yourself, and I'll throw a question to Taniqua. Taniqua, you made your impact with your voice, even most recently at City Council budget meetings in Austin, Texas. Can you share a little bit about why you continue to feel compelled to use your voice for your community?
The biggest reason why I use my voice for my community is because there was a time when I was afraid to use my voice, and so many in my community like me were not being heard. There was so many different situations that we were all experiencing, but no one was listening because there was no one advocating for us. So I really started and got involved in advocacy 4 years ago after Winter Storm Uri. My community was impacted. We were without gas for months, and we had gas stoves, so that was the only way to cook. We did not have hot water. This is right after Winter Storm Uri, so it was freezing cold, and me, myself, my children, we had newborn babies in the complex, and there was so many just we weren't being heard. So there was a lot of advocates that came in. There was a lot of organizations that come in, but there was no organization. And so, and they weren't listening. They didn't invite us to the table. And that's one of the biggest things, the takeaways that I have from the voice board is we were invited to the table so that the right questions were asked. And so learning that and just being a part of Up Together period has helped me to use my voice to speak out. And when things were not going our way or using my voice and with dignity and with pride and respect, because you felt disrespected just because you were in a underserved neighborhood or in an underserved place, then you didn't deserve anything. You were undeserved because of where you were. So using my voice is important to me because there are so many that need to be heard, and I want to make sure that they're heard at all times. And as many people are heard. Nikki, over this past 9 months, everyone has been encouraging because everyone used their voice, and we've shared experiences. And so we know the importance of using our voice, and I know the importance of using my voice. So I'll continue to do that.
I love that. I have one final question for both of you. It just in the time we have here, can you share what you would have to say to others who think speaking at settings like City Hall or testifying brings anxiety or just seems like it's too big and they can't really make a difference?
You want to go, Christina, or I can go? I would just say lean on those around you. The last time I was kind of nervous that I wouldn't spoke at City Hall, and Jesus was there, and so we just don't look at everybody, and don't pay anybody, just pretend like you're by yourself. And I just, when I go up to speak, I'm sitting there and I'm giggling because I have the giggles because this is the advice he gave me, and it's a room full of people looking at me. But I just think that that's important. If you have something you want to say, just say it. And if you need it, I'm always here. If you want to contact me in some way, I can help you. But just having a community and having those people that encourage you. So be encouraged. You know that something's not right. You speak up and use your voice.
And I definitely second that. The biggest thing I would say is to know that you have a story, to learn that you have a story. No matter how small you think it is, it's still a story and it's still yours that needs to be shared. And if people aren't able to hear what you're going through, they won't know. They won't know what kind of help you need. They won't know what kind of help other people need. They will always have that assumption that you know, we're on food stamps because we choose to be, or we're not working because we choose to be, or we don't have the hours, or, you know, even with me being on disability, I was ashamed for a very long time to ever say anything that I was disabled, that I, you know, was unable to perform duties that other moms could, or that other wives and parents or whatever it was. I was very ashamed. I held my head low for a lot of years, just thinking that I was less than, because I had heart surgery, you know, because I became sick at a young age and I wasn't able to fulfill the needs that I thought my family needed. And they didn't. They just needed me to be me, to be a mom, even be sick, but still be me. And being vocal about that is what gave me my power, what allowed me to stand strong, what allowed me to start the Rising Up Together San Antonio and push through with that, is that even though know that I am a small person in this world, I know that I can be loud. I know that I can still be heard. I know that I can still make my voice known and make other people's voices known behind me. So I would say just speak up, just do it, get some tissue because you're gonna cry, and have a hanky for your hands because my hands sweat like crazy when I'm in these situations. Even now I'm home alone, still the same. I would say if you're hesitant, just start to talk, and it will definitely start to flow out. That's my advice.
Wise words. Thank you. Thank you both for partnering with me to share your story a little bit more, sharing your voice about advocacy and the efforts that you've taken this year. Thank you also for stepping up and showing up for your own community, and making sure that this research is heard. Now, looking at the time, I do want to get to some of the Q&A questions that we had in the tab submitted through the Q&A tab. Have time for a few. Let's see if we have some. We did have a question from Tony. Awesome work. How can we connect with members of the research team? There are a few from the area. Love to connect with. Oh, Marina already responded to that. Happy to connect you. Please send an email to research@uptogether.org. Yes, please send an email to research@uptogether.org. Question from Denise. Will the slides be shared? You can find all of the content in the slides, as well as the research agenda and the participatory research guidebook. Those are on the website, uptogether.org/voice-project. Those two documents are available for download. You can even read about our research team, where you have some member bios there. So glad you're interested in that. Kimberly, will the recording be shared with those who registered? Yes, it will be shared, and will be shared to all those who registered. Any other questions? I think that is all of the questions. If I am correct, team behind me, do you see any other questions that need to be answered? No. Well, let's see. I think that's it. Well, thank you. We're so happy you made it to this point in the webinar. Happy you stayed engaged with us. Definitely in this conversation about the voice of an economic mobility movement. I once again encourage you to download the material, go to that website. It's been an amazing 9-month journey. I also encourage you to reach out with any questions, support, ideas, ways to continue making meaningful impact when it comes to guaranteed income, direct cash without restrictions, or accelerators to economic mobility. Let's face it, we all should be able to live in a country where each of us has access and the ability to move up together. On behalf of the Voice Board, the research team, our Up Together staff, our Spanish interpreters, our note takers, our partners, private donors, supporters, fellow economic mobility movers, thank you for joining us. We cannot wait to continue this conversation with you and partner with you on this movement. Now, instead of saying goodbye and ending this webinar, let's do something a little bit different and continue to be seen and heard. Up Together believes in storytelling that amplifies the lived experiences of our members in ways that celebrate strength and value. With that being said, we will leave you with this amazing video of Susanna from the Voice Research Team, the impact of guaranteed income and the way we will continue changing the narrative.
My name is Susana Tinoco. I am originally from Mexico, but I've been living in Oakland, California for the last 29 years. My family came to the United States about 1994. My parents later moved to the 30s neighborhood, and some more financial stress came about with my mom becoming pregnant with a fourth child, having another sibling, and living in a one-bedroom apartment as a family of 6. So at about 8 years old, I had to learn how to take public transportation, to go to school with my brother and my younger sister, and starting to step into that parentified role. I feel like that took away from my educational experience, my social experience, having to be the third parent. In further years, my siblings had become a little bit more self-sufficient, that I could venture out and start to take on after-school activities and participate in my larger community, more so in high school. I tried to do my best in school, and school is somewhere where I always found safety and solace, and I was a high-functioning student. Nobody would guess, like, you're going through all these things. I have always felt a place of solace, safety in schools, and one of the reasons that I decided to come back to education after some time doing other kinds of jobs, I wanted to be intentional about my time and contribute to building community. I went to community college after high school, failed out of that, started working, had my son, then decided to go back to school sometime after he was a little bit older. I felt like an imposter. I felt like I wasn't worthy of the title to be considered a teacher. I had a very good experience with Up Together's program because I didn't feel like a child, where my money was being tracked. Feeling very lucky and fortunate to have received the funding from Up Together, because at that time I was transitioning from being a full-time employee to a part-time employee, because at the end of the 2020-2021 school year, I was transferring to the University of California, Davis. The funds were definitely used to supplement my income that I used to pay bills, like my phone bill, pay for gas, pay for childcare sometimes. It was a godsend. It did span throughout the time that I was a student at UC Davis, and it ended as I finished off my degree program. Programs like Up Together, who provide these funds for people like myself, are ultimately investing in the community, this role model or model in any sense. But I do see my story as a potential for people to see how you can invest in an individual and they will pay it back. I used my education to bring me to a place that is paying the community in service. I love my work. I love working with the children. I love working with their families. These opportunities create equity. There are many people who would love the opportunity to continue bettering themselves and creating opportunities for their families, but they just need a little boost, a little extra something in the tank that would make that reach a little bit more accessible. And programs like this make it such that people don't have to toil away their whole life to get that goal that's just, within a couple inches of reach.